I'm John Jay LeBeau. I am a professor here at the George C. Marshall Center, and I'm very happy to be the chair of the Partnership for Peace Consortium's Combating Terrorism Working Group. For the Combating Terrorism Working Group, which I've been associated with for about the last 4 or 5 years, it's my responsibility to try to bring together a international membership, both of practitioners in the field of security and people with impressive academic qualifications as well, to try to get them together into a cohesive unit for the purpose of addressing annually a specific theme that has to do either with the phenomenon of terrorism or with counterterrorism responses. We meet twice a year to do that. Generally speaking, we hold one meeting at a location outside of Germany that is hosted by a country which has a member in the working group. And then once a year we conduct a meeting in Garmisch at the Marshall Center. Venues in the past for our meetings have included Tbilisi in Georgia, most recently Reichenau in Austria, Tirana in Albania, and a number of other locations. Last week in Reichenau in Austria, we put together, in my view, a really first-class event where we were able to discuss the theme of cooperating, international cooperation against the terrorism target and against the phenomenon of radicalization, specifically jihadist radicalization. We were able to have a number of presentations with a keynote by the premier counterterrorism expert from Austria, Mr. Peter Gridling. It was a wide-ranging conference over a couple of days with a great interchange between people with various international perspectives. What we'll do in the autumn of 2011 is, with any degree of luck, bring the same people together who will have conducted additional research and have thought more about cooperating against terrorism, and we'll conduct a sort of part 2 event on the same topic. That will result in some sort of a written publication, as well as in a contribution perhaps to a book that the Combating Terrorism Working Group is putting together. I should mention that when I speak of the event in Reichenau, Austria, we have had a long association with the Austrian government in supporting both the Partnership for Peace Consortium and particularly this Combating Terrorism Working Group. Colonel Anton Deng, a longtime member of our terrorism group and a graduate of the Marshall Center's terrorism program, has been instrumental in addressing a number of the relevant themes that we have tabled. Well, I would highlight a number of things. When I think of the Combating Terrorism Working Group in particular, I would say I am really astounded at the level of discussions that we have achieved over the last several years, and this is testimony, certainly, to the very high quality of the participants. It's a pretty easy task. We say it's a very easy horse to ride when you have participants of such excellent quality. We've brought people in who have been looking at the terrorism problem for a number of years. We've got people who have worked in intelligence agencies, people who have responsibilities with NATO, with different parliaments in various countries, all of whom bring something rather unique in terms of their experience and perspective in addressing the terrorist problem. This has permitted us to look at areas such as how terrorist organizations recruit people to their violent cause, and what seem to be the most effective mechanisms to prevent such a thing. The topic of radicalization that we're looking at now is particularly important, as radicalization, as we heard from our membership, is occurring in any number of countries, not only in East and Western Europe, but really around the globe. I think that the phenomenon of terrorism, unfortunately, is not likely to disappear soon. And that means that the research that we do, the conversations that we hold, enjoy a certain relevance, both now and I think into the future. For example, a couple of years ago, this particular working group looked at how intelligence agencies deal with one another in approaching the terrorist challenge. That particular topic is surely as relevant today as it was a few years ago, and my expectation is it will be just as relevant 5 years from now. And so I think that what we have accomplished here is to bring together a group of people who can think long and hard and well about complex problems and try to propose, at least in a modest way, some solutions, and to send that information up to the Partnership for Peace Consortium's stakeholders and those who are interested in PfPC work. Well, what we'll do next is we will arrive at a good time to hold our next terrorism event, our next Part 2 Terrorism Conference. That depends to some degree on logistical commitments and all of that to get a firm date. However, sometime in the autumn, my suspicion is more than likely in September of 2011, we'll bring these people together for another hard look at challenges in cooperating against terrorism. Specifically for Part 2, I've asked the members to take a look at the legal infrastructure that we have in nation states that have a terrorist problem. Do the laws of our various countries enhance and make easier cooperation, or do the laws of our countries, because they are in some instances judicially different, perhaps magnify the challenge that we might have in working together on a transnational basis? What is the role of international law when we speak about the transnational challenge of terrorism? And so I anticipate that this very important dimension will be given considerable attention.